Hello, and welcome to 30 Second Success Connect, where we introduce you to entrepreneurs and professionals who love to connect and lead with their hearts. I'm Laura Templeton with 30 Second Success, and with me today is Sue Guiher. Sue is a communication and leadership strategist, a board-certified coach, and the founder of Thrive for Success Consulting. She helps executives and business owners improve their executive presence, messaging, and workplace relationships through better communications, people, and presentation skills. Sue also works on investor pitches to secure funding for startups. I didn't know that. That's cool. An international speaker and best-selling author, Sue is a master at teaching others how to become confident communicators and leaders so they can influence and inspire internal and external audiences and present at the national and international levels. Sue's clients have included Fortune 500 companies such as Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, Capital One, and Merck. She has a unique ability to combine intuition with strategy so her clients can move forward in a clear, focused way that's specifically tailored to them and the business and career and lifestyle they desire. Welcome, Sue. Thank you so much for joining me today. I love having you here because we speak the same language.
We do. We have so much fun. Yes, absolutely.
Yes, I'm so blessed to have known you for so many years, and it's so fun because I know we were just talking about this recently, but I love to ask people, do you remember how we met? So, I know you know.
Yeah, well, and I think it was, we were kind of going back and forth. We believe it's through our connection to Phyllis at PWBN. I always switch those letters around, right? That's how we first met. Yeah.
Yes, it is. Yeah. Because I remember I had joined PWBN, and then I had been talking to Phyllis about working with her organization and becoming one of her leaders. And at that time, I'm not sure if you were still in PWBN or if you had stepped away and were really busy because you were also.
So I hadn't ever joined like fully. I was a speaker for many of them, their events. And then I'm sure I joined at some point. But I was originally, I think when I met you, I wasn't sure whether I was a member or not. And then I was editor of the magazine at one point.
That's right.
I know, It's like all the spirals that come through, which is kind of fun.
And all the links, like I keep thinking about all the different people, and we've networked together through Network Now, through Jamie Broderick's group. We've networked together through the Women's Business Forum.
You're my wing woman. You're my wing woman. You're my wing woman.
I know. It's one of those. We've been Philly together. It's been fun. Just kind of get. And I think you and I went together to. What was it when Elevate the Walnut Club and City
yes
doing their threesome together.
Yes.
Oh my gosh! And do you remember that dessert at the Lowe's Hotel?
Oh yes. And I wanted to go back to one of their events just for the food and the amazing women they bring together. So yeah.
I know. We I think it was so much fun. Just kind of even just traveling together on the train, and that's one of the things. Oh, I always joke around about what happens in the car stays in the car. And do you remember where that came from? Who was in the back seat with us? Who did we drive home? Do you remember?
Oh, Marilyn Russell. Yes. Oh, that's right. I forgot we drove Marilyn Russell. Oh my gosh, love Marilyn. Oh my gosh, that's right. So what's in the car stays in the car. That's great.
Yeah, we were.
That was another event that we went to together. That she was speaking at another women's event. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a luncheon. A very exclusive luncheon through, it was Network Now, it's now Success Connections. Jamie Broderick had organized it, and there were just a handful of us that actually got to have lunch with Marilyn Russell.
Yeah.
And I think at that point in time, she was sharing about writing her book. She had just come back from vacation. She was in transition from one radio station to another.
Yeah.
And she was going to take an Uber, and I'm like, I'm going that way. Get in my car.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and we've stayed in touch with her for a really long time. So it's pretty cool the different people we've met through our networking. So let's talk about that. Tell me some of your favorite networking stories or people that you've met along the way that have really made an impression on you with your networking.
So it's very interesting because people are very surprised to hear this, but I am an introvert. And so networking is hard for me. The big networking where you're going to a room with a lot of people that you don't know. That being said, so that's why I said you truly are my wing woman. And one summer I challenged you, every time you're going, please call me and take me because that was one of the things. But the type of networking I love doing, or what we had talked about, the intimate lunches, networking, walking with people. So going down to, I've done it to where I go to Fairmount Park down in Philadelphia and the walk and talks. I love when I have networking groups that are going to dinner together or go to the baseball games together or other sporting events. So where it's you're creating, or the Doylestown group that has the dinners. So it's really those types where I can have a social while also connecting, because networking, and that's the in-person network, but I do a lot of networking online. Like networking is really all about creating connections and relationships and being able to just connect with people in a really heartfelt, authentic way.
Yeah, and that's so true. And I totally agree with that. So is there someone in particular that really made an impression on you along the way that you've really stayed in connection with? Besides me.
Besides you, let me think. So it's interesting because I come in contact with people for different, I think, seasons or reasons, things like that. So recently I've been connecting with a gentleman out of Minneapolis, and he heard me speak on a webinar at the end of March, and it was already planned. It wasn't a COVID that we had to turn it into a webinar, but thing that COVID did do was it was supposed to be to one chapter of a very large international organization, and then they opened it up to 8 other chapters because of everybody working from home, other people listening to it. And so he and I have started to create a relationship through LinkedIn, through sharing of mutual connections, through sharing of just information, blog posts or LinkedIn articles, blog posts, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So, Marilyn Russell, amazing. Haven't stayed in connecting with her like you have, but I'm trying to think if there's people. I think I just stay connected with people wherever I can help them, I think is really where I'm at with that.
That's neat. That's neat. So you mentioned too about connecting with people on social media. Mm-hmm. For you being more comfortable, is it more comfortable for you to connect with people on social media? And what's your process? What is your process when somebody, do you do more reaching out, or do you just do more receiving?
So it's interesting with my corporate clients and with the corporate programs, I'm doing a lot with LinkedIn, and I do a little bit of both. I think I receive a lot. It depends upon if I've read something that I think is really interesting of somebody's, we'll definitely try and share it. And then if we're not already connected, we'll reach out and either comment on it or reach out to try and connect with them if I think there's a connection. Interestingly, I was on back early, probably March timeframe, somebody else's webinar. It was around the same time. That was awful. It was awful. It was one where they say, I'm sorry to say that, it was somebody not that we know. It was a content, and it was a lot of very little content and a lot of talking about herself. But interestingly, there was a chat function because it was on Zoom. And so I started to connect with somebody else who was asking certain questions. I was like, and so I privately messaged her, I'm right on the same page with you. She and I took our conversation over to LinkedIn and have continued that. And she's somebody that I may end up doing some stuff with. She's out in California. And so creating that relationship. So it was somebody that we shared similar values, similar insights, and took it that way. And then I like Facebook groups for small business owners, for entrepreneurs. And there's certain communities that I'm getting deeper into, and to create those relationships.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there is so much value in groups, and I'm hearing, especially now, a lot of people are talking about there's so much more activity in the different groups, even on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
in a number of the groups. Whereas before, I didn't really pay a whole lot of attention to the groups because I didn't see a lot of activity in them. But from what I understand, there is a lot more happening. So I might have to kind of get dip
Yeah.
my toe back in there.
Dip
So
your toe back there. And really, I always say is really, and I haven't gotten really involved with many on LinkedIn, but for those that are really hyper focused on the area that you're focused in, like, I don't know that I would get involved in a group that is 1,500 people or 100. I just saw a group with 112,000 people.
yeah,
Like, this is way too big for me to really navigate. But they do segment it by location. So 563 of them were in this area. So that might be a little bit more manageable.
right, right. Yeah, the other thing too, and I absolutely love it. I don't know how many of the different networking groups that you've popped onto their Zooms, many because of the time that we're in right now with the pandemic and everything.
Yeah.
And we're still staying at home and you can't have big gatherings. So we don't know
Yeah.
when our networking groups are going to get back together. A lot of them have moved online.
Yes.
I see them networking differently online
Oh, interesting.
as opposed to in person. Like a lot more casual, a lot more open, a lot more engaging, and a lot more relaxed. Let's put it that way, because
Right. Yeah.
like
Yeah.
some people are showing up and it's like, did you brush your hair today? No, like,
Well, you know what? We're all having the pandemic long
yeah.
hair. This is,
We
I'm
were
over.
just talking about that, right? I took the
Right.
scissors.
Yeah. You just snipped yourself. I am 17 plus weeks without a haircut. I usually get it a cut every 6. So this is 3 haircuts beyond where I should be.
Yeah, well, it is beautiful, and I have to say, we all try and do different things, but and that's what I'm saying. We're showing up differently,
Yeah.
but the message is still there. The
Yeah.
connections are still happening. The people are taking more time to connect with one another. So let's talk a little bit about your experience with Zoom and the fact that obviously you're doing some Zoom presentations, but from a perspective of being in the audience, I like that little tip you shared about the chat box. So what are some of the ways that we could make deeper connections with all these different Zooms that we're showing up on, and it's like overwhelming now all these different people, like how do I stay in touch with them? So what do you like to do? Do you pick a handful of people, or how do you stay connected with some of those folks?
So it's interesting because chat box is definitely, I would recommend, is if the host has not disabled them. So that's one. So it's interesting that, so one of the Zoom that's totally not for business that I've been doing a lot of is we do Zoom coffee hour for my church. And so it's interesting you're talking about the Zoom kind of protocol, so to speak, is definitely has changed in terms of people showing up. I'm talking to people that I might not have had a chance to meet with at coffee hour, so that's interesting. But going back to business, the chat box definitely also just showing up and not trying to monopolize a conversation. So listening very carefully, presenting the information, looking at the camera. That's a big thing. Is my tip, that is having the little post-it thing, put it right next to, yep, exactly, put it right next to your camera so that you're looking at the camera, because it's really easy as you have a lot of faces to be looking at the faces, and then you look distracted and also looks like you're not paying attention. The other ways of, if you can have something to share. So if you can get somebody to either private message them your LinkedIn, hey, I'd love to continue a conversation with you on LinkedIn, or hey, if it's something that is appropriate to share a blog post, to share an article, or if somebody else has come up with a good idea, asking them to share the link to that. So always asking people to share another way to, so the idea always is, how do I continue the conversation beyond this conversation, if you want to.
Yeah, and I love the idea of asking someone who might have shared something, hey, can you put the link in the chat box? Because it makes them feel heard. And it
Yes.
makes them feel appreciated. And sometimes we need, especially when we're in a room, like some of the Zooms I show up on are 40 plus people, and you want to make sure that everybody's being heard. So I think that's a very
Are
important
any of
thing.
them using breakout rooms? So I
Yeah,
was on a fantastic,
yeah,
one with leaders about a week and a half ago. And I wouldn't say it was networking, but I definitely networked there. In that there was a meeting of consultants who are really looking at how companies are making decisions and to re-enter. So how's the communication plans? What are all the decisions? And so then they broke us up 2 or 3 times in rooms. And so interestingly, I seem to take the lead in each room. So, but I was asking everybody, to what they thought, I never was the one who reported back to the large group though. I made sure somebody else would do that just because I also wanted them to be heard.
right.
And then interestingly, several of those people reached out to me on LinkedIn and I copied everybody's name that was on, I have their name on the Zoom things. And so I copied down all of their names, and ones that I was in a chat room, made sure I reached out to and connected with them.
Yeah, there's several groups that I've been on recently that have done the Zoom chat rooms, and they've been wonderful. And it was so funny because one of them, there were 2 people in this specific group, and it's very random. Zoom picks them
Oh,
random.
yeah.
But there were 2 people that I thought, oh, I hope I get them. I got both of them.
Nice. That's always great.
Yeah.
I attended a 3-day retreat, and they had, it was a 3-day big event that had to go virtual, 2,200 people, 10 Zoom rooms, close to 200 people in the 10 Zoom rooms. And so there was a lot of chat going on. One way to connect with that many people was just saying, hey, anybody else from Pennsylvania? And so following, and then just doing a shout out to them. And a few of those people asked for my information to connect later. And then same thing, there were breakout rooms. And so just being able, I think when there's that many people, even 40 is too many. Just like if you couldn't go into a regular in-person networking and walk away with 40 names, at least you shouldn't. I don't know, do you think you should? I don't really think you should.
No, I think you have to be very intentional who you want to meet, and who you want to connect with, because you can only follow up with so many people at a time.
Right.
It might be nice if you get a list and you can send everybody an email. Hey, really nice to meet you. If you'd like to have a coffee conversation or a coffee chat, here's my calendar. I've done that.
Right.
And surprisingly enough, maybe about half of the people will respond, but at least you now have reached out. And if they respond, then carry the conversation. But if you're very specific of who you want to follow up with, yeah, you don't need all 40 names, because you kind of get a sense of who you really resonate with.
Right.
And me, I'm all about the heart. When you're talking with someone, you can tell who you really connect with on an emotional level. And I think that you have that ability too when you're on Zoom, because you can tell, you just kind of can tell the like-minded.
You can still tell. You can tell who's interested. You can tell what they're talking about. Yeah, I know you subscribe to that. I don't subscribe to drive-by networking or drive-by, yeah, and you don't either.
We're adding everybody to your newsletter.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah.
Yeah, no, and I love that. The whole idea of networking in different ways. Do you find, now here's a question, because we have touched on that as being an introvert. Do you find it easier to network virtually versus in person?
Definitely virtually. Definitely.
Yeah. But you're still showing up, and it's interesting because you mentioned that you take a leadership role a lot of the times in the smaller group settings. And I find the same thing. It's so funny because like I feel way more comfortable in that leadership role than I do in the audience role. It's just interesting because that's
very yeah. I mean, I can speak in front of hundreds of thousands of people from a stage and not have of course I'll get nervous, because that's what everybody should get nervous when you're speaking. That means you're taking it seriously. But that one-on-one, now also interesting, networking for me is kind of like swimming. in that I love swimming once I'm in the pool, though getting into the bathing suit, going there, all the pieces of it. So networking once I'm there and kind of have settled in, have my 3 to 5, 7 people that I might be in conversation with, I'm fine. So it's kind of like once you're in the pool, I'm all right. There's a lot of excuses not to do it beforehand. That's why I like the social aspect of it as well. It's just there can be some commonality amongst social things that we can talk about.
Yeah, I mean, I love networking. I just, and I think sometimes I bounce between that introvert and extrovert piece, and I'm like, a lot of times I'm like super jazzed to go. Even at 7 o'clock in the morning, it's really crazy. But sometimes when I get there, I can get a little overwhelmed, and I find that I need to withdraw, collect myself, and then re-engage. And somebody said that there's a word for that. It's called ambivert.
I believe I'm an ambivert. I believe I'm
kind of so I understand exactly what you're saying. Is sometimes it's like the dragging yourself there. I don't have a problem with dragging myself there. Sometimes it's when I get there, I go, oh, there's a lot of people.
Right, yeah.
So yeah. I have to kind of like, take a step back, re-engage, and then I'm okay. So I totally get what you're saying there. I totally sense that. So let's talk a little bit more about some of the really cool things that you're doing, because that whole challenge time. You've met, and let's talk a little bit about your relationship with Jill, how that came about, and how the challenge that you're involved in and you're engaging, how that's going. So let's talk about that.
And this is one of my favorite types of, we didn't think about this. So the challenge that the Unite Your Blog 30-day challenge is a type of networking, because I'm meeting a lot of people. So Jill and I met through a networking group. So we met through Jamie Broderick and Success Connections. And interestingly, I had been running the Blog a Day challenge, that was the original name, for many years. In fact, I keep going back and realizing it was 2014, I think, is when I first started it, and hadn't really done it in the last 2 years. And was really looking at, and so interesting was Jamie who said, why don't you reach out to Jill? And I thought that would be a great idea. And so we talked to see if she was interested, and she was. And so we've gotten to know each other more, obviously, doing all the content over the last couple months, putting everything together, taking the original content up, updating it. And then what's born out of it is a course program that I'm really proud of. And the people that we've attracted, again, talking about networking, I had many people who either had done it originally, but really also new people who said, oh, I want to jump into this and I want to promote it to my people. So affiliates that said, because I get a lot of people come to me through referral. Just my network refers people to me, for which I'm really blessed. And so this challenge, though, has allowed me to network in a way I feel really comfortable with new people. I'm getting to read new people's blog posts, so I get to know them. I'm getting to connect with them through our Facebook community. And so this whole program, which we have ideas of expanding, has really come about because of a community, a networking community I was part of. And now it's given me an opportunity to create relationships and network with expanded people. And, the 30, we have 32 bloggers, but the 30 people that are in are fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, and you've created a group just for those people. So they're coming together, chatting about their challenges, really uniting, and you're creating that bond between them that hopefully even after the 30-day challenge is over, they will stay connected.
In the past, that has happened. We've had people become guest bloggers on each other's. We've had a few joint ventures and collaborations in the past that have come out of those type of challenges, which is why I like those type of communities as a networking, like a different way of thinking about networking.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And it is creating community. And that really is what networking is all about.
Absolutely.
So. Yeah. So I love spending time with you, and I think this has just been awesome that we've had the chance to chat. Is there anything else that you want to share with the audience? I know, we didn't even touch on the fact that you're a Wharton professor. Like, come on, Sue. And I think a lot of what you do stems from the work you do in that college. You know, you're learning so much just from the students and how they communicate in that leadership piece. So talk a little bit about that.
So the work I've done with Wharton, and I can't believe I'm starting my 11th year, and so there's some networking that happens there. So I just finished teaching crisis communication. I teach that every spring. I love that. And it's one of the most interesting classes. I love the fall class, which is management, communication, persuasive speaking, and people come back to me. But it's very interesting. Two things. One, my students for years, I just heard from a student 2 years ago who saw an article and said, I thought of you. I wanted to send you this. So I wrote back to them and said, how are you doing? And that's next day, another student had reached out to me. I saw this and wanted to send this to you. And another student, did you see this? And so students connect with me years afterwards.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And I love that. And then I have teaching assistants who I stay in contact with for years and years and years and years, wherever they go and things like that. And so sometimes that results in them bringing me into a company that they work for or referring me to someone else. Every once in a while that happens. So yeah, the corporate work that I do, both with the MBAs, and then I work with executive MBAs. And again, I'm very careful. I don't ever mix my consulting and my teaching. In fact, for the first, I think 4 years, I don't even think I ever told anybody I taught at Wharton. 4 or 5 years. For me, it was like a hobby. It was like a hobby day. That was my teaching day because I love teaching. It's just a hobby. Where do you teach? At Wharton. And now I've been teaching at Georgetown. And then I'm an executive coach right now for Rider University as well. So that whole being around the MBAs, students I really love, and the executive MBAs as well.
Yeah, it's amazing that you're right. You know, the students that stay connected with you. I had done some speaking for Bucks County Community College, and there's a number of students that still reach out to me and will ask questions or share articles, and we've stayed connected even over, you know, and I've spoken there maybe 2 or 3 times, but, you know, just to make those simple connections for them, or they'll even just, sometimes they'll ask, hey, can you take a look at my resume? Or you look at my LinkedIn. I'm not sure what I should be doing with this. And it's nice to be able to give back to the community that way. And I love, you know, the students' minds are so different because they're facing different challenges. You know, they really are, and depending on what lane they want to take, and you know, they want to be recognized for their difference.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Even there's such a difference between my MBAs that are there the 2 years full time and the executive MBAs. And the fun thought so I love, usually the regular MBAs are younger. They also are looking at possibly career change. They're looking at where they're going, the internships. And then the executive MBAs are working. And so I love for them, what I teach on Friday, they're implementing on Monday. So for them, it's a lot of in the moment of, okay, and we work on actual presentations that they're doing right then and there. And so there's that impact immediately. And so that's, I think it really expands the idea of what quote networking is all about. It's really creating those relationships.
Right.
Yeah.
Perfect. That's perfect. We're going to end right there. I love when that little brilliant snippet happens. So thank you so much for joining me today. I mean, we could talk forever, but I don't know how long people are going to want to listen.
We'll do that offline. We'll continue to network offline with each other.
Another walk and talk.
Another walk and talk. Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, thank you for being with me, Sue. I really appreciate you being here, Sue Guiher. You're awesome. Keep up the amazing work and connecting with people out there and helping those college students understand what it's all about. So thank you.
And any business owner that wants to reach out, feel free to reach out and contact me as well. So love that.
Absolutely. Amazing speaker. I love any time we get a chance to spend time together. So thank you. So remember to subscribe to 30 Second Success Connect for more videos and share us with your friends.